The Legend of Zelda is a franchise that encapsulates gaming at its very core. Memorable stories and beloved characters, amazing music that's recognized by generations around, a sense of adventure that stokes the fire in your very heart. Truly a masterclass. Gamers young and old have most likely played at least one Zelda game, especially after the massive success of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and guaranteed, everyone who has so much as touched a video game has heard the tales of Zelda.
Oh boy, smooching time!
As a young boy, my first adventure across Hyrule took place in A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, and while I wasn't smart enough to complete it as a young one, it etched its way into my heart and it never left. I have been a mega fan of the franchise ever since, nearly playing every game to completion. Yes, even these two, and my love, while it began on the Super Nintendo, blossomed on the GameCube. I firmly believe everyone has that one game that rises above all others. It isn't just another game to you. It goes beyond having an amazing story or smooth and satisfying gameplay. It's a game that had an indelible impact on you as a person. For me, that game is Twilight Princess. The reason for that? Timing. It came at the right time in my life. I was 7 years old, so I was easily influenced by media around me, and it was a large contributor to my taste in various media like games and movies. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is my favorite game of all time, and after this recent playthrough, still shows no signs of giving up that title. This game means so much to me, and many others, so I'm hoping you enjoy this video. If you do enjoy, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this video to those closest to you. Also consider leaving a comment, just giving me your thoughts about anything really. With introductions out of the way, let's delve into the realm of Twilight to find perfection itself, because this is Twilight Princess. Link, an Ordonian farmer, is thrust into an adventure with the role of the chosen hero of the goddesses as he seeks to free the land of Hyrule from an oppressive shroud of twilight. The children of the village and his childhood friend Ilia are taken away from mysterious creatures, and in his haste, is pulled into a realm of shadows where he finds he's taken the shape of a sacred beast, a wolf. Waking up in a cell, far away from what he knows, he's greeted by a mysterious imp-like figure named Midna. With her aid and the use of his new feral abilities, they meet with the princess herself, Zelda. She explains that Hyrule had been invaded by a tribe of people hailing from a banished realm of shadow. Leading the invasion, the usurper king Zant, and commanding a force of shadow beings forcefully corrupted by Zant's dark magic, the siege to Hyrule ends with the surrender of the kingdom, plunging the land into a state nestled between light and dark, the Twilight. Link's first task, to free the light spirits who watched over the land since time immemorial. Link, reaching Faron Woods and speaking to the titular spirit, is able to free it by recollecting tears of light spread across the forest and reassumes his normal form. Invading the forest temple, aiding the denizens inside, a group of ragtag monkeys, and slaying the dark beast inside, collects what Midna calls fused shadows. Knowing there are two others hidden in Hyrule, they make haste, journeying to Death Mountain, home of the Gorons, and Lake Hylia, a common gathering space for Hylians and Zora alike. During his travels, Link also finds the whereabouts of the missing children. 4 of the young ones are found seeking refuge in Kakariko Village with the guardianship from local shaman Renato. The final, Ilia, resides in Castletown and has aided people in Telma's bar, but unfortunately has no recollection of anything prior to the attack, meaning she can't remember who Link is. After freeing the light spirits, Eldin and Lanayru, and collecting the final few shadows, all seems well, but Link and Midna are ambushed by the king himself, who effortlessly defeats Link and Lanayru, and reinstates the foul Twilight, returning Link to his wolf form. Zant uses his magic and curses Link with a shard that, while in contact with Link, prevents him from returning to his Hylian form. Powerless to stop him, Midna is nearly killed by Zant, but both Link and Midna are ported out of the spring into Hyrule Field. Seeking help, Link rushes to Hyrule Castle for the aid of Princess Zelda herself. Using her abilities, Zelda is able to heal Midna, saving her from her brush with death. Unfortunately, as they leave Castletown, a barrier of magic surrounds the castle, making it impenetrable. Returning to Faron Woods, Link and Midna enter the Lost Woods, where they encounter a Skull Kid, and after giving chase, are permitted access to the Sacred Grove. In the Grove, Link proves his worth as a hero, and is able to pull the Master Sword itself from the pedestal, ridding Link of the curse Zant placed on him. Midna decides this magic could prove far more useful than expected, thus Link gains the ability to shift between both forms at will. Not long after, Link receives a letter from Telma, informing him of a band of resistance fighters attempting to restore peace to Hyrule who manages to get Link a route into the Gerudo Desert. Midna reveals that the Mirror of Twilight, an artifact able to bridge Hyrule to the Realm of Twilight, is their key to stopping Zant, and after fighting their way through the Arbiter's grounds, find the mirror. However, Zant split the mirror into 4 separate pieces, hiding the other 3 across Hyrule. 5 spirits suddenly appear and expunge information, proving quite useful. A thief using intensely dark magic, Ganondorf Dragmire, was defeated some time ago by the Hero of Time, and was stopped from seizing control over not only Hyrule, but the Triforce itself, and was sentenced to execution by the 6 sages. While the sages are very wise, they could not predict that Ganondorf himself possessed a piece of the Triforce in what they described as a divine prank, which he then slayed one of the sages. In an act of fear, they banished Ganondorf to the Realm of Twilight, so the calamity currently unfurling across Hyrule is a direct result of these events. Link and Midna are informed that the remaining pieces of the Mirror of Twilight are hidden in the Snowy Peaks, an ancient grove, and the heavens itself. With this newfound adventure, they race off, journeying to the very corners of Hyrule itself and fighting beasts even greater in power than what was found before. They assemble all pieces of the mirror, but not before restoring poor Ilia of her memory. With the mirror assembled, they venture into the Twilight Realm, and after collecting soul, sources of power for the Twilight, Link is able to imbue the Master Sword with the power of light itself and uses it against Zant, who has gone from calculated and cold to hysterical and manic. It is revealed that Ganondorf gave Zant the powers he sought and was able to take both Twilight and light itself into his hands. This allowed Ganondorf to regain his physical form, where he now resides in Hyrule Castle itself. After a brief confrontation with the maniacal warlord himself, Zant is ripped apart by Midna using the power of the few shadows and the old magic itself. Racing back to Hyrule Castle, Midna gains a new monstrous form that is able to dispel the magical barrier separating Hyrule Castle from the rest of the land, and thus Link and Midna are able to enter. Ascending the castle, they reach the throne room, where an unconscious Zelda and a fully revitalized Ganondorf await them. After a brief monologue from the Demon King himself, the final confrontation begins. First, possessing the princess, he uses her powers to attempt to defeat Link, but is proved to be ineffective. Being dispelled from Zelda's body, he assumes the form of a giant pig-like beast known as Ganon, but is quickly taken down by the hero. Princess Zelda takes back the power she imbued Midna with, and Ganondorf comes back yet again. Midna sends Link and Zelda to safety out in Hyrule Field, and uses the shadows in an attempt to wipe Ganondorf away, but alas is defeated by the king. Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf are all present in Hyrule Field, and with one final communion with the spirits of light, Zelda receives the Bow of Light, a powerful artifact able to penetrate Ganondorf's armor and stun him, allowing Link to deal devastating blow after blow until he's forcefully knocked off his horse, where the final battle begins. A duel to the death between Link and the Demon King. Although Ganondorf proves a formidable adversary, Link is able to deal the final blow through Ganondorf's chest, and as the power of the Triforce leaves Ganondorf's body, dies standing. Zelda thanks Link for what he's done, peace is restored to Hyrule, and everything wraps up in a nice neat package as Link returns to his home with all of his lost friends and returns to normalcy. Near the end, as a post-credits scene, Midna, Link, and Zelda are seen giving their farewell goodbyes, but as Midna fears that the mirror will be used yet again, she destroys it and completely shatters it, as she is the true ruler of the Twilight, and thus is never seen again, fully separating the Land of Light and the Land of Twilight forever. The story is great, and while it isn't going to compete with the likes of Red Dead Redemption or even The Last of Us, it does an exceptional job creating a compelling narrative that drives the player to explore and fight for Hyrule. The characters are extremely memorable, and it has the best companion character in a Zelda game, and it isn't even close. Midna is one of the best Zelda characters of all time, and is such a joy to have. Seeing her snarky and pessimistic attitude near the beginning of your adventure change into a caring, wise, and courageous being that isn't just fighting for herself, but for everyone in not only the Twilight Realm, but Hyrule itself, is such a great character arc. The only part I feel could have been reworked is Ilia's amnesia subplot. It is another great motive to fight and protect the ones Link cares for, but it goes on for far too long. It can take the average player around an hour just to complete it, and immediately after, you're given another quest to find missing letters for a phrase that is supposed to bring Link to the heavens. It's obscenely long, and while it doesn't bother me too much, it is a blemish on the game's exceptional pacing. And while the opening is the usual horse that continues to be beaten for people to use as an example of the game's pacing problems, I'm going to be honest, it really isn't that bad. The opening has to establish characters as well as build up the world, as well as what Link is fighting for. There isn't a preconceived pace at which the story goes at or how it should go in the game itself at the beginning. The game shows you characters and gives you reasons to care about them before pulling the rug out from under you and plunging you into the narrative's conflict. I think the opening is overly hated, and I can't quite understand it. And while it isn't my favorite part of the game, I never grow tired going through it. And I mean, even reading dialogue and watching cutscenes to completion, it takes me about an hour to get through everything. Yes, even the Tears of Light section as well. An hour of story and characters, and I'm already entering the first dungeon. It's never a big hassle. Another thing that always bugged me, at least a little, about the story is how Zant kind of gets sidelined halfway through the game. He's a central force all the way throughout, but the spotlight gets stolen from him by Ganondorf. They have one of the most unique enemies ever created for a Zelda game. Zant is extremely fun to watch, but instead of giving him the spotlight and having the whole game centered around him, it turns into another Ganondorf story. Again, this is yet again another nitpick, but I do wish they gave my man some more respect. The story and characters are some of my favorites in the Zelda franchise as a whole, and while there are a few rough patches here and there, it is an unforgettable time that I never grow tired coming back to. Now, gameplay, on the other hand, is my favorite in the entire series, and while nowadays that is an unpopular opinion with Tears of the Kingdom being what appears to be the consensus fan favorite, I have a different take on Zelda's gameplay structure as well as what makes a game like Twilight Princess shine above the others. Attacking is your standard 3D Zelda affair. B swings the sword, holding B charges a spin attack, and targeting and pressing A does a jumping attack. Very simple, and that's okay. Now, I can hear the question right now, how is this better than Tears of the Kingdom? And first, give me a minute. Second, it comes in the progression of Link and his abilities. Before entering the first dungeon, you meet a golden wolf that brings you to a snowy arena. This character is the hero Shade, who is also revealed to be the previous incarnation of Link, the hero of time. The Shade teaches Link a hidden art, known as the Fatal Blow, and then tells you there are 6 others to learn. The hidden arts are my favorite part of the combat. While exploring, you can find these large standing stones with a Triforce on them, and when going near them, they let off a very faint whistle. They can be interacted with using Wolf Link, and after performing the song, which is always a song you can perform in the ocarina, he reveals himself on the map. Each one gives Link new options in combat and improves his overall moveset, from the improved jumping attack to my personal favorite, the Helm Splitter. All improve the flow of combat and add variety to how each combat scenario can go and how Link can approach them. The items you obtain through your adventure are also fantastic. Twilight Princess has some of the most unique items of the entire franchise. Items like the spinner, which allow you to ride along the walls at high speeds, jumping back and forth between rails, and the Dominion Rod, which allows Link to imbue statues with life and mimic Link's every action, are extremely fun to use and play into some fantastic puzzles. If there is one thing I will say could be much better, that would be the effectiveness of the items outside of their dungeons. Most of the items have their uses outside dungeons or puzzles, but items like the aforementioned spinner don't have much use outside of puzzles, which is disappointing. You use them, grab 2 or 3 pieces of heart, you move on. Other than that small gripe, the items are extremely fun and satisfying to use. Wolf Link is also an appreciated addition to the gameplay. Wolf Link is far more agile and quick than Link, but lacks the versatility and access to tools that makes Link so capable. So, what makes Wolf Link so fun? Traversal and his dominance in fights. Wolf Link is extremely fast and is only beaten in speed by Epona, so exploring the expansive fields of Hyrule don't bog down the experience. He also has the ability to leap to obscene places with the aid of Midna, allowing for unique puzzles and gameplay opportunity. Topping off exploration, Wolf Link can also use his heightened senses to see hidden opponents and secrets normal Link couldn't. Wolf Link, while more limited in combat, isn't a slouch. He can jump on opponents and can even latch onto larger enemies to viciously maul them to death. The most notable tool of Wolf Link's arsenal is his spin attack. Holding B can initiate a spin attack, which is pretty standard, but holding longer creates a gigantic circle of energy around him, which when enemies enter, cause Link to charge them for insane damage, causing most enemies to be killed instantly. This attack is one of my favorite attacks in Zelda. It is so satisfying to use, and seeing Link darting from enemy to enemy with extreme precision and very quick never gets old. Wolf Link is a mechanic that I deeply appreciate the risks they took implementing him, and I wish Nintendo would implement something similar in the future. Some people would argue that these should be separate talking points from gameplay itself, but these are integral parts of Zelda's identity and gameplay, and when they're lacking or pretty much absent in other games, the experience is worse. So I would argue they're just as important as the items and abilities Link gets. When talking about my favorite aspect of the game, it has to be the game's dungeons. Every dungeon has an amazing theme and are absolutely dripping in atmosphere. Nearly every dungeon is a massive triumph. Each one is filled with numerous brain teasers that can really test how well you're paying attention. The combat encounters that lie inside are great, especially the mini-bosses. Most dungeons in Twilight Princess can take an hour, but they aren't heavily padded for the most part, and are stuffed full of great puzzles, unique mechanics, and of course, ending every dungeon is some fantastic bosses. The bosses that lie within are some of my favorites in the series, and they only serve to make the dungeons they're in even better. The standout boss for the game would have to be Stalord. This fight is so frantic and unique due to the use of the spinner, and its second phase bouncing wall to wall is pure dopamine. But the internet itself has talked about Stalord to death, so there's not really much I can add on to it. Speaking of standout fights, the final boss is one of my favorites in the entire franchise. Not the actual best, that would go to Tears of the Kingdom, and my personal favorite fight would go to Demise at the end of Skyward Sword. But goddamn, Twilight Princesses is so good. All 4 phases are unique from each other, and all test you on different aspects of Link's combat capabilities. Phase 1 tests awareness of the opponent's moveset and timing. You need some decent timing to hit the orb back to Zelda, and if you're really good, you can stay extremely close to her, which has a tighter window to hit it, but takes him down much faster, really having a risk versus reward kind of thing. The second phase tests spatial awareness, and pits Link against a monstrous beast that is extremely fun to defeat using Wolf Link. Phase 3 tests your horse riding skills, and the final phase, woohoo, look at the fishing pole, it's over there, oh, now it's over there, ooh, it's over here, ooh. Just an amazing final fight. I know this isn't part of the gameplay, but I just have to talk about the soundtrack. Words cannot describe how much I adore Twilight Princess's soundtrack. I won't gush and give a ton of examples since it's been playing the entire time this video has been going on, but I highly recommend looking it up, or hell, if you have the means to do so, go play the game. It is weird to say though, but as much as I love this soundtrack, it is my third favorite of the Zelda series, with second being Skyward Sword and first being Majora's Mask. There are some amazing tracks spread throughout, and the opening song that plays on the title screen makes me tear up every time I get ready to replay it. The series really doesn't get much better than this entry. Of course, being a Zelda game, we also have to bring attention to the side quests and all the fun things you can collect on this journey. This might just be my favorite Zelda game to fully complete 100%. The standard collectathon stuff can be found here, like fishing and pieces of heart, which I will say I always found it odd that every Zelda game before and after this one required 4 pieces for a new heart container, but this is the sole entry that requires 5, like why? The fun stuff doesn't stop there though. The side quests are a lot of fun, with one of the highlights for me being Mallow Mart. Mallow, one of the characters you may have seen running around in cutscenes, yeah, this one right here, well, they have a quest line, and it's kind of bonkers when you think about it. It centralizes around donating a metric truck ton of rupees to repair a bridge leading into Castletown, then 2 more truckloads to allow Mallow to purchase a shop in town. This entire questline has some pretty funny dialogue, specifically from Mallow themselves, and alluding to how this child is going to single-handedly put every other shop out of business in the pursuit of amazing deals, and it's priceless. This entire questline is perfection. Another questline of importance is the pose. Halfway through, when you're on your way to save Midna, you stumble onto a house with a man made of gold and jewels named Giovanni, and he tasks you with killing every Poe in Hyrule. There are 60 of them spread across, so this is like the golden Skulltulas from Ocarina of Time. Freeing every one of them results in freeing Giovanni, who races off to find his girlfriend, but she leaves him, and you can even find him at Telma's bar depressed. It's actually both sad and kind of hysterical that this is in a Zelda game. Speaking of collecting things for weird people, do you like bugs? Because if not, well, you're not gonna like her. Her whole questline is collecting these golden insects that can be found everywhere in Hyrule, and she rewards you with a shit ton of rupees in different wallets, which is pretty handy, especially for the Mallow Mart quest. Some of her comments about the bugs are a little concerning though, like bathing the slime in the snails. Also, if one of your friends says that she's their Zelda waifu, report them to the CIA immediately. They can't be left alone with children. The completion is amazing and pretty much perfect. Or it would be if it wasn't for the Hylian Loach, which is a recurring pain in my ass, and this fucking piece of shit roll goal minigame. It's just 8 levels repeated 8 times over with stricter time limits every 8 levels. It's incredibly boring and it's incredibly repetitive. But in the name of getting every useless thing done just to say I did, I got them, and my reward was making the fishing girl happy and probably turned on, and I'm going to leave it there because this is getting to be a lot. Twilight Princess is a triumph that I implore everyone to experience. Truly one of the most underrated games ever made, let alone underrated Zelda games. It doesn't help that Nintendo has not made it readily available. I hope that changes and they bring this as well as some of the others like Wind Waker to the Switch or their next console they put out. The story is one of my favorites and it has the best gameplay of any of the Zelda games in my own silly personal opinion. I don't expect many people to agree with me on that, but I can't help feeling how I feel. Nearly everything is perfect, and I can hear it right now. There isn't a perfect game, let alone a 10 out of 10. But this is one of those games, I feel it's as close to being as perfect as possible. This is my favorite game of all time, and I know that will never change. This game means so much to me, as does the entire franchise as a whole. I can't wait to play it again, and I can't wait for September 26th so I can play the newest epic put out by this legendary series. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. It would mean a lot to me. If you did enjoy, consider sharing it to those close to you, and maybe leave a comment about anything really. I'd love to chat. I have a bunch of stuff on the way, so stay tuned. Have a good day, and I hope to see you again soon.